Every eval tutorial starts the same way. Here is your dataset, here are the correct answers, here is your score. I do not have that. Nobody building an agent that produces work has that. There is no correct version of a video or a page or a refactor. There is output that holds up and output that does not. So here is what I actually use instead. A set of checks that can fail without knowing the right answer. Not a judge model, not vibes, mechanical gates, the kind that fail the same way at 4 in the morning as they do at noon. The trick is not clever grading. It is noticing that most failures are not wrong answers, they are broken artifacts, a number that traces to nothing, text that overflows its box, two captions on one track that overlap so one of them never renders, a color pair a human cannot read, a timeline that plays correctly forwards and wrong backwards. None of those need a ground truth. Each one is a property of the artifact, and a property can be checked. That splits the problem in two. The part that needs taste is this interesting, is the argument good stays with me, and I look at it once at the end. The part that is mechanical goes to a gate that runs every time before I look at anything, and the ratio matters more than it sounds. On my last 3 builds, every single defect that reached me was in the taste half. The mechanical half caught everything else first, and it caught things I would have missed, because I do not measure contrast ratios by eye, and neither do you. 5 gates, in the order they run. 1. Structure. Does the artifact satisfy its own contract? In my case, every timed element needs a start, a duration, and a track index, and it needs the class the framework uses to control visibility. Miss 1 and the element is silently invisible in the render while looking perfect in the editor. The gate caught a real one on this very video. A fade that ended exactly on a clip boundary with no hard stop after it. The message was that non-linear seeking could land past the fade and leave stale visibility state. That is a bug that only appears when someone scrubs, which is exactly what a render does when it captures frames out of order. 2. The runtime. Does it build without throwing, with every timeline registered where the renderer expects it? Cheap, fast, and it catches the class of error where a selector matches nothing, and the animation silently never runs. 3. Layout. This is the one I trust the most because it looks at rendered pixels rather than at my intentions. It samples the composition at several times and asks whether text is painted, whether it is occluded, whether it overflows. On this video it fired 3 times, all on the same thing, a decorative word set at 3% opacity. The finding was, text paints with an effectively transparent fill. Technically correct. In that case it was intentional. The word is background texture and carries no information, so the fix was to mark it as excluded from layout audits, not to make it visible. That distinction is the whole skill. A gate that fires is not automatically right, but a gate that fires and gets waved through with no annotation is how a project rots. 4. Motion. Is every animation seek-safe in both directions? Deterministic, no clock, no unseeded randomness, no infinite repeats. This is where a video pipeline differs from most software. The same input has to produce the same frame every time, or renders drift. 5. Contrast. Every text run against its actual background at a real accessibility threshold. On this video it initially failed twice, a small label at 2.49 to 1 where it needed 4.5, and a decorative at 1.07 to 1. Before the gate existed, my earlier work shipped cream text at 26 to 32% opacity that fails outright, 45% passes. I did not know that. I could not see it. Then and only then I look at the thing. Snapshots at chosen times in a grid, and I read them like contact sheets. That pass found 4 things no gate could have. A line of type wrapping into the caption band, a dash sitting low enough to read as an underscore, an underline landing on the wrong words, and a highlight box drifting off its phrase. Every one of those is taste. None of them is a property you can define in advance. There is a sixth gate, and it is the one that matters most for anything an agent generates. Nobody ships it in a package because it is specific to what you make. Mine is one line. Every number on screen must trace to a source, written down before the frame is built. I added that after a day where my agent invented 3 figures, a counter that ran to 40, a consumed 81%, and a signal count that ticked to 6. None of them was in the source. All 3 looked more precise than the truth. Here is why it belongs in this video. That failure is invisible to all 5 gates above. The structure was valid. The runtime was clean. The layout was beautiful, better than the honest version. The contrast passed. The motion was deterministic. A fabricated number is a correct artifact containing a false claim. So the 6th gate does not check the artifact. It checks the provenance table, a list of every value that appears, each next to the file transcript line, or on-screen count it came from. If a value has no entry, the frame does not get built. That is the general shape, and it transfers. Whatever your agent produces, there is a claim it can make that is structurally perfect and factually empty. Find that claim and write the gate that refuses it. Practical notes, because add gates is easy to say. They have to be fast enough to run every time. Mine take well under a minute. A gate you run only before shipping is a gate that discovers 10 problems at once on the day you have no time. They have to fail loudly and specifically. Every finding I quoted names the element, the timestamp, and the fix. A gate that says check failed trains you to ignore it. They should have a documented exception path. Mine has attributes that exclude an element from a specific audit. Used narrowly, that is correct engineering. Used broadly, it silences the checker on everything beneath it, which is why the annotation matters more than the attribute. And they do not replace looking. The 4 defects my eyes caught on this video were all invisible to the gates, and the 3 the gates caught were all invisible to my eyes. That is not a redundancy. That is 2 different instruments. So, no dataset, no ground truth, and still a real answer to is this good enough to ship. 5 mechanical gates on properties of the artifact. 1 bespoke gate on provenance, which is the one your agent will actually need. Then 1 human pass on the part that needs taste, done last, looking at rendered output rather than at source. If you take one thing, the reason this works is that most agent failures are not lies. They are structurally valid artifacts with something missing. Missing is checkable. Wrong is not. Next in this build log, I measured 6,981 real search results in this niche to find out who actually holds a search slot when you have no audience. The answer changed what I am making.